We'll call our July Park Board meeting to order. Within the packet was a copy of the minutes from the last meeting. Are there any changes, corrections, or omissions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Any comments from the citizens other than items that are coming up on the agenda? Please take the podium and please introduce yourself and
Sure, and I'm not, I live in the village of North Hudson, so I don't know if that's okay or not, but my name is Stephanie Moe. I live on 616 7th Street North in Hudson, Wisconsin. But I just wanted to come today because last month Joyce Hall had shared some pictures and some information regarding the approval of the splash pad for White Camp Park. And I don't know if you had the opportunity to view a lot of the community feedback regarding that splash pad, but there, and I know there's a lot of negativity online and people can get kind of crazy with it, but I just wanted to share my perspective as a mom within the community. I have a 10 and an 8 and a 5-year-old. And I think the community just, in general, I think the sentiment of those who expressed their opinion online was just a little disappointed with what they saw. Just because we've been waiting for so long for something like that for our children. We don't really have a lot, especially water features within the area for us to use. I feel like I've always been told ever since I lived here, been here for 19 years now, that we have the river. So that's why we don't have a public pool or we don't have some of those other features because we have the river. But the thing with the river is that even that's hard for us to go to. I tried to take my kids there earlier this year. I went to Lakefront Park, and that's changed a lot over the years. And I thought, well, it's earlier in the year. Last year they had a whole outbreak with the swimmer's itch. And I'm like, it's earlier in the year, the water's high. I can take my kids down there and it should be fine because, it's not too hot yet and the water's not too stagnant. And lo and behold, like later that night, a post was made online saying that the kids were getting swimmer's itch. And I was just so worried that they were going to get it. Luckily, they did not. But it's hard. I just feel like there's just not a lot within our community for our young kids to be able to go and get, play within the community in a setting like that. I can take them to, a lot of times what I end up doing is actually end up leaving the community. Baldwin has a pool now. I go to Menominee frequently. I go across into the cities. I go to Egan's Water Park. I take my kids Burnsville. I don't know if you know about that place, but they have Nicollet Commons Park, which is an amazing water feature that they have for their community over there. But there's just a lot of other, and luckily we live near the Twin Cities where we have those options and we can get around, but it's just a little disappointing that we don't offer a little bit more for our kids within this community. And I think when they saw the renderings, they were just a little disappointed about, it's hard to say when you just look at the picture, like what's happening with the water sprinklers, because I know they can shoot up in different directions and turn off and on, and they can run in between all those different features, but there wasn't, with the pictures that were shown, it just looked like there was a couple different sticks kind of sticking up out of the ground and a couple different holes on the ground, but we didn't really see a lot of the other interactive features that you see at places like River Falls or some of the other ones with the dumping buckets and the things you can spin around and the various different interactive features you can have on a splash pad. And I think parents just in general were a little disappointed. And then also they had commented about the fencing, and the fencing, River Falls, if you ever were to go there, they have a fence around their splash pad, which is really nice because splash pads, I would say, are more for, you're kind of pushing it at 8 years old, but it's more for the age group that's probably 6, 7 and under. That's going to be your demographic that's going to use it the most. By that time, they're starting to age out of it and they think it's a little bit boring. But a fence is a great thing to have around a splash pad, even if you have a playground nearby. Like River Falls has playgrounds all around that area, but it's nice to kind of keep them enclosed, so that it's just a little more peace of mind for parents, just to have a little bit, more peace of mind that they're just not going to go run off somewhere, that, there's a little bit of a containment there. So there was some feedback from the community about adding a fence, and I know that there was some money that you were considering, but that is something that I think a lot of residents would appreciate too. But I just wanted to provide some feedback just because I've been here for so long, and my kids are getting older now, and we're not going to be using this stuff as much anymore, but just for future generations, I think it would be great if we could consider, and I know that you've already ordered everything for the splash pad, but just things like that to keep in mind going forward, just that there's just not a lot of options here. And even like I said, when I go to the beach, because the beach here is just, there's not really a lot of options in Hudson, I end up going to Lake St. Croix Beach or some other beach because there's not as many problems like with swimmer's itch and stuff there. So even if there's something that could be done to address those issues at Lakefront Park, so that our kids can enjoy the St. Croix River, it's beautiful. But that area gets really contaminated with geese poop, and unfortunately they get really sick, and that's no fun either. So thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much for coming and sharing with us. No, I really appreciate it, and I'm sure I speak for the whole board that thank you very much for coming and doing so. Moving on to our agenda, unless anyone wants to make a comment to that first or beforehand.
Yeah, well, we're very aware of, feedback from, the good, bad, ugly of just about everything we do. And hopefully, I know a lot of people talk about it could be better, it could be bigger, it could be larger, it could be more encompassing. But, the one thing we do work with is a budget on that. And that's probably the biggest thing that prevents a lot of projects we do. So, I'm with you. I've been here 20 years and had kids that, were born here and now they're out of the house type thing and never had that type of thing. So definitely understand that. But the taxpayers also say, well, at some point we have to limit not only the dollar amount, but where that money's coming from. So, I think based on what we did, we really kind of try to squeeze this thing and get the most out of it. At some point, it would just be a no-go, and it was for a number of years, I think. It just way too expensive for what the concept was. So what we try to do is use the money at hand and get the bang for our buck out of that. And I think at the end of the day, this is better than nothing. I think hopefully everyone would agree that this is better than nothing. And possibly in the future it gets expanded upon or grows or, changed out. But that's kind of how we landed where we did anyway. It wasn't just, hey, I love this, let's just pull the trigger. It was really painfully shrunken and grown and stretched and tried to max out our dollar. So that's kind of why we ended where we did. So,
if I can have the historic perspective to Hudson itself, and Pat, you'll go along with this because you've been here a little longer than I have. I've only been here over 50 years, and the town has grown tremendously. But we used to have, green spaces, and we called them parks. And then we had a group, and Al Whitecamp led it up. It was called the Green Thumbers, and went around and put up things in the parks and did landscaping, built toys for the kids, built the big battleship deal that we had. Built these things all over, down by the lakefront, all the different parks. And it was the Green Thumbers, spirited by Al Whitecamp, which Whitecamp Park is named after, and the splash pad is there. So historically, there have been people in this community very concerned, like you, that have been doing things all throughout the decades. And so we've grown quite a bit from green spaces with Green Thumbers to modernized parks that have facilities. Splash pad's a nice start. I mean, it's over $380,000. And money is money, and budgets are budgets, and at this time, and with the way finances are for everyone, we're doing the best we can as a board, and we'd like you to maybe take a look at some of the final drawings or whatever to see exactly what that is. And but we sure appreciate your input as well, and I hope this historically gives you a little background.
No, sure. I appreciate it. I didn't realize that there's a budget and everything. I do appreciate that. I think the other thing that was forgot to mention was just maybe reaching out a little bit earlier, because I love what Joyce called us. She shares a lot with the community, and she posts things online, and I think that's really key, because it gets the community kind of involved in what's going on a little bit more, and everybody knows when all these meetings are, and sometimes hard to keep track of all of that with everything else that they got going on with busy lives, especially parents. But maybe just, if there is any way to get any input or utilize any of that input, and I realize that there are.
It's being televised now, ma'am.
Huh?
It's being televised now.
It's all televised.
Oh, yeah.
And our meetings are open. We've been having discussions on these issues for some time. The issue of a pool comes up generationally in the community about having one. At one time in the 50s, it was as divisive to the community as the dog track was, in terms of people on one side or the other. And like Mike was saying, we're hamstrung by budget. And so we try and do the best that we can, and we're happy when we hear from people like yourself and others who will take the time and make the effort to come in and contribute. So thank you. that it? We'll move on to our agenda items then. Okay, our first item under new business discussion, I can't read without, I just got my lenses replaced. I haven't got my glasses yet, and by this time of the day, it's my dyslexia that I can't.
The first item on the agenda
Yeah.
is discuss the downtown businesses' request to add signage near the Lakefront Park Wharf.
Okay,
I'll
Mike, you want to take
this
that?
one up, and we can kind of tag team this, Mary Claire, if you want to. So I've been approached by a number of businesses, and also kind of working with the chamber, with a new dock in place, and Mother Nature allowing us to open that up, hopefully in the next week or two, knock on wood. When people land at the wharf, there's been some talk about, if they don't know the city of Hudson, where do they go? Great, they're here, which is exactly why we built that dock. But things such as, not only do we want them to spend a couple bucks, but they're gonna have families and things like that. So the concept came up as sort of a informational or kind of a directory type signage somewhere either on the wharf itself or right as you get out. The example I'm using at Prescott, which has a very similar layout as ours. There's a public dock, you walk down the ramps, you get there and you kind of look around, and if you don't know Prescott, you're not sure where to go. If you want an ice cream cone or go buy a t-shirt or whatever. And so that concept's been kind of floated. I know that Deb was helpful this isn't an advertisement for businesses necessarily, but more of an overall directory.
More like a kiosk.
A kiosk type thing, yeah. I know that we have been working on some general concepts. There's an artist that was going to volunteer some time to do that. It's still a work in process, or it might be done, but as of 5 o'clock today, it wasn't. But we've all been there, like the Mall of America or anywhere. You want to know where the restroom is. You want to know, what stores are where, what floor. And so just the concept that we thought we'd start with the park board, because it is going to be in a park property or, attached to something or mounted on something. We do have a map by the boat launch, by the arch, that is another way to enter the park, but that's almost more of a layout of what the park offers. And this is kind of flip it around, you land in our park at the back door, let's say, and where's all the locations. So not sure what kind of action or next steps, but just wanted to kind of bring that up, that's something we're thinking about moving forward on. Obviously, it'd have to be approved by figure out how it's laid out, what's on there, et cetera. But just something that the business people who actually in a connect the dots type of way, really provided that wharf for us by their hard work and all the tax money, the TID money that was collected by them to build this thing. So that's the concept. And I can float the concept plan once I do get it by email to everyone so they can have a chance to review it. So I don't know, Mary Claire, if you have anything to add, subtract.
I didn't see that.
I haven't gotten anything yet. No. I do have what Prescott has downtown. I can share this around, but again, it's just like if you walk into a mall, this way is the restroom, here's the beach, the restaurant, the liquor store's there, the gas station's up there type thing.
So thank you very much. I'm Mary with the Hudson Chamber. So, we do have that kiosk that is, as you mentioned, right by the arch, but
Yep.
Not everyone may walk directly from that boat launch up to that arch. But I mean, is there something that we could expand already on a structure that is in the park that could be inclusive? I know there is a map out there already. So, but, I appreciate the concept of I get off my boat, where do I go? How do I direct? So, I think it's important that we can provide information for folks to let them know where to go. But and I don't know if that fits, with the ordinance of being able to put a sign, right down there. And plus, you don't want so many signs everywhere that you get that sign noise and nobody knows where to look. So, appreciate it that it's nice to have something right as you get off the dock, but also willing to look at, is there something in partnership we can do with that kiosk by the arch too.
Yeah.
This Prescott Riverfront sign, and it'd be similar, Hudson Riverfront. Thinking through this thing and looking at that, and knowing the people today that have boats, they're boating, and young families and all that, they all do this, cell phone. So if we put that up there, and we put the locations numbered, we put the number address on the street, that way they can type in 621 2nd Street, hit it on their maps, takes them right there walking.
Yeah.
And we put
That-
those.
Or a QR code could go there.
Well, QR gets it complicated with so much. They look at the map, you could do both, but they look at that, they say, oh, I want to go up to the bank. Well, bank says 713, whatever street.
Okay, yeah.
Puts it in and comes up on their map, they hit
Yep.
walking, they just go. And it would work slick as can be.
Yeah.
It'd be very
We'll put you
smooth.
on the art staff.
Yeah,
Fine, I got an art background.
Yeah.
Oh, and that man.
but the whole
Yeah.
purpose of this discussion was to bring it forward, that it's not, it is to be more of a kiosk, and that the park board is behind the concept, so that the parties developing it with the chamber and the like know that the ground's already fertile for such a thing, and that you're not wasting your time and energy in coming up with something only to have it turned down by the park board.
Yeah.
That we're in favor of something like that down there.
So is that the wishes of the board, that you're in favor of something down there, and then it's just further?
I would like to say, I'm concerned, I understand the desire for this, but to me, anything like that interferes with the real natural beauty of that area. So if we could incorporate it into the existing map, and if it could be simple, that's quite an elaborate sign. There's quite a business, and if we're gonna be
Right.
fair, we'd be having lots of businesses on there. So I'm just trying to think of a way to maybe meet that concern, but do it in a way that doesn't add another structure with another bunch of signs to read. Some way to do it simpler, cleaner. That's my thought.
Yeah, I don't disagree that the look of it, not only the information it gives, but the look of it is important. And I think too that, again, like you said, little kids, they want an ice cream cone, but you also need, I wouldn't know where the restrooms were down there unless I saw a sign. And again, where the current one is, that's if they take that one path and go to the northeast side. What if they go south or what, so, but yeah, something this is a billboard, I'm with you, that's sort of a, ta-da, here we
Yeah,
are. Something a little bit lower profile, or, like you mentioned at the mall, they're almost like a little desk. It's very low profile. You actually walk up to it, you see the map, and then maybe there's a little directory right there, so. But yeah, point well taken.
So I think hearing the discussion of kind of how we're looking at it will help in the design and coming up with what it is. But I think you're hearing that we want it to be exclusive, we don't want it to be excluding businesses. We want it to be promoting the businesses, all of them that are down there, the chamber members and the like, and cognizant of what it looks like, and informative.
Right. I mean,
And
certainly
I think that the talent you got in the chamber and that group are good enough to come up with a really good solution.
Well, and we certainly willing to work with Councilmember Kennedy and others and the board, just to be sure that we're meeting the needs and the vision that you have for that space too, so.
Good.
And on a kiosk like that, with some type of map and addresses and that, there's a lot of historic buildings that have been around forever. And we have the old photographs and all that. And you could incorporate side panels that showed that structure then and that address and that. And that's a way for people to get to know the town and see it historically as well.
Right, and hopefully you've all enjoyed the banners that are down there too, that talk
Yes,
about
those
the
are-
entire history of Hudson. And the audio is now working too, so there is a QR code. I love QR codes. But there is a QR code there that you can click on, and then you can listen to the audio of all those banners too. So I think that definitely added enhancement, that Lakefront Heritage Project, to the park too.
It's nice.
Yeah, so thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mary Claire. Next item on our agenda is our capital improvement plans.
So what are we gonna do with that? Is there any action steps for
I don't
staff
think we
or
have
anything?
anything to
Is it gonna come back on a future agenda, or?
Yes, they will come forward with a proposed
Oh, it's design?
design for it
Okay.
that we can respond to.
Is it worth having me reach out to Prescott to see how they determined which businesses went on their kiosk or not?
Well, I did speak to a gentleman that was kind of in charge of the whole dock and
Okay.
everything, so he kind of filled me in. Their goal too was not to have billboards, it was to be more encompassing of you land here and, you know, everything that it offers. So it was mostly driven by their chamber,
Okay.
and that's who's listed on there, their chamber members.
Okay.
And it was basically that information from the chamber was given to the city, and the city designed that map.
Okay.
You know, and we're maybe saying we're gonna do we'll do a partnership, but we're gonna kind of flip around. I know someone's been working on it just to kind of create a Hudson concept, so maybe we see what that is. And then if we need to, you know, make modifications to that, maybe have Nick take a look at it on the legal end to make sure that this is something that is, you know, approved and can be done. And then we can talk about the look and feel and size and location and things like that at another meeting.
This the distribution we just got tonight about the ordinances and general signs, this came from the planning department, so it looks like there could be a problem if we don't do a pretty careful, I mean,
Right.
the recommendation was a QR code that's linked to the chamber, as opposed to listing individual. So
Yeah.
I think that's another thing we're gonna just have to make sure that we're working within the.
Yeah, that's what we'll need
Absolutely,
Nick
yeah.
to sign off on, yeah,
Yeah.
yep,
Okay, so for future agenda discussion?
yes.
Okay.
So our next item will be next year's capital improvement plan and our budgets for it.
Yeah, so, so for those in the audience here tonight, which is great, by the way, because we usually don't have anybody. It's
Yeah.
fantastic. So we're gonna be going out and kind of touring some of our more used parks. Tonight we have on the docket Anderson Park, White Camp Park, and Grandview Park. So as we're touring those facilities, we're going to be looking at the capital improvement plan that we have in place, which is from 2023 to 2030. And kind of lists out those items that are in the outdoor recreation plan for each park. And kind of when we're thinking about installing those now, keep in mind that obviously budgets are considered. Anything that's on here isn't set in stone, right? It has to go in front of Finance Committee and Common Council for final approval. And I know there's a lot of items coming down the pipe when it concerns to like facilities, streets, bridges, Emerald Ash Borer, the whole 9 yards. So obviously, we're gonna keep that in mind as we start to tour these facilities, but I think for the purpose of anything that we're gonna further discuss here, I think it'd probably be better to do that out in the field. So I guess the charge for us tonight is to go to each individual park that we're gonna go to tonight, Anderson, White Camp, and Grandview. Look at what it says in the capital improvement plan, just to make sure that it's still aligning with what we want to see for the future of that park. And then kind of talk about, you know, the years that we kind of have that going in versus other parks and kind of try to prioritize it, because council and finance will start to talk about CIP here in August and September, so rather shortly. So just kind of get something narrowed up for us, make sure we're all on the same page, park board is good with the CIP, and then I'll bring it forward for discussion at finance. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
While we're here, then, before we leave here, let's go through our old business
Yep.
and those items and updates.
Yep, so nothing really under old business. Project updates, I have the Williams Park restroom. If you've driven up there recently, they are starting the new restroom facility. So on the back of your packet, they kind of gave an updated schedule. So they are looking to have that completed by Monday, September 2nd, so around Labor Day. They would turn it over to us. Seeing that we probably have a couple more months in the season, we would start it up and put it in use. So that's going well. If you also have driven up past Williams Park, you've noticed the big ruts in the park. So The Faith Community Works did they helped us out with spreading mulch and wood chips, and they had 20 plus volunteers. Well, it just so happened that during that time we were also getting inches and inches of rain. So it was one of those things where, do we damage the park because we got 20 volunteers coming and we'll fix it later? So we decided to pull the pin. We got the wood chips were already ordered and delivered. It's like, well, we gotta follow through with it. So unfortunately, it did tear up the park a little bit. So now that's kind of firming up. I'll schedule the staff to get in there and fill in the ruts and everything and reseed it. So just to let you know, that's what that is from. That's from us moving the mulch into the playground areas, so they didn't have to wheelbarrow 50 yards of mulch from the street. So boat launch obviously was closed down over the 4th of July weekend. Took a lot of phone calls about it. We are having the marina is going to help us put the docks back in place. They kind of shifted off their concrete abutment, and so they're planning on helping us do that tomorrow. We got to reinstall the pay stations, put the batteries back in, charge them up, and then just kind of clean up all the random logs and sticks and everything that are in the parking lot. So we'll have it open for the weekend. So
Good.
and people will be able to use the launch. The wharf, obviously, the river's going down. Once it gets down to 680, it'll be accessible. We'll get out there. We'll have to do a little cleaning with all the waterfowl that have taken residency on that facility right now. They find it to be a great sunning spot, I think.
Yeah.
And obviously kind of clean up the ramps and gangways and everything. But that project is still not finished yet. So Lunda still has to come back and pave a trail, do restoration work. I have taken a bunch of pictures, if you noticed during the high water, how the north end was twisted. Very aware of that. Took photos, sent it to our engineering group that put together the plans for that, Fourth Engineering. Told them that obviously that's not acceptable. We need to have that addressed before the project is closed out. So they're forwarding on to their kind of design team to come up with some fixes that will alleviate that problem during future high water events. But overall, I thought, between the boat launch docks and the wharf, outside of that twisting on that north side, I thought it did what it was supposed to do. So I am looking into getting some longer spud poles for the docks and the boat launch, just maybe a couple feet taller, so we were pushing it. It was at 688.7, and I think at about 689, the spud poles would have maybe started to pull out of the ground. So if I can get 2 more feet to get them up to 690, I would be able to sleep a lot better at night. So I did reach out to Mincor, who built the docks for us, and left a message to see if they have anything taller for us. Same diameter, just a couple feet taller. So that's pretty much all I got.
Only thing I can say is it'd be nice to get the engineering solved, that we can have the gangway to the dock such that it's raised up from 680 to 684, so that so it isn't underwater so soon.
I am going to talk to the dock builder. Wayne Prokosh is his name. He's out of Lake City, Pepin area. I think there's a way to maybe land a temporary ramp midpoint of the system from our current second seawall.
Yeah.
And just have it kind of be a lift in place where we would come in and install it when it gets to 680 and obviously take it out when it gets to 684, which mirrors what the boat launch is. So yes, we're looking into, or I'll be looking into alternatives just so it can stay open for that additional 4 feet that we're experienced pretty much this whole season.
Yeah.
So, which is an anomaly, but yeah.
But the staff kept the park looking really good.
Yeah. And now obviously.
Out to the end of the dike, the 2 guys who I encountered on Sunday when I was out there driving the truck were congenial. They were talking to everybody as they were driving, and people were getting out of the way. They were talking to them about how they enjoyed it. I mean, they were good ambassadors for the staff.
Good. It's good to hear.
Yeah.
And we have the Minnesota Orchestra, Minnesota Orchestra is coming this Thursday at the band shell. So we're going to see another, if the weather holds up, another 3,000 to 5,000 people in town. So the park is being used, and that's great. That's what it's there for. So that's all I got.
I don't have anything else for, any items for future agendas that anybody's got, think of? Hearing none, we'll adjourn to meet up at Anderson Park.
I'm going to adjourn.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carried.